All right, everyone. So excited to have an amazing guest today on the Veteran Entrepreneur Masterclass podcast and now YouTube channel, which is cool too. So we got that. So Rob, I don't know if you knew this, but your ugly mug is going to be on YouTube. So you may hurt your ratings and your subscribers once you actually see your face in person. So
Hey, better than To Catch a Predator.
well, baby steps. You got to work your way up, right? Got to have goals and aspirations. Got to dream big, right? How you doing this morning, man? As you're taking a sip of your coffee, how you doing this morning?
Really good, man. Thank you so much for having me. I'm been looking forward to this just to have the experience. So
Yeah, me too. Me too. So you and I think we met on Facebook first, right? Because normally all my guests come from LinkedIn. You're a little bit different, but I will share that story. So actually, before I ramble on, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself in your military career, which is still active? And then we'll kind of get into who you are, what you do, and how you work with other veteran entrepreneurs to help them just basically kick ass. So why don't you kind of brag about yourself for a minute, brother?
Yeah, sure. Could have been Facebook, LinkedIn, Grindr. Who knows? People meet each other in all kinds of strange ways. Yeah, I'm an Air Force reservist in a combat operations unit out of Riverside. I'm a master sergeant now, so an E7, the equivalent of a Navy chief. I've been in service for about 23 years, did 5 active, and then about 6 years ago, I made the plunge and became my own boss. After about a decade of technical writing, I decided that I wanted to do visibility/PR, and I've been growing it ever since. I launched my own magazine called Shift Advanced Life Design, which has been going on for about 6 years also. Currently, I just do media outreach, press releases, business articles, and social media cultivation and help people become business celebrities.
Awesome. So that was a lot in 30 seconds. So you are still in the Air Force now, you said. So tell me about how you kind of made that decision to still be in the reserves and be an entrepreneur at the same time.
Yeah, so I got out to go to grad school and moved to San Diego in about '02. And I really enjoyed the structure of the Air Force. I enjoyed the camaraderie, and of course the luxury accommodations that they afford us as opposed to the other peasants in the other branches. So I ended up looking up reserve units, and I joined in '05, and I was a senior airman. The cool thing about the reserves is that you get a lot more flexibility, and it's really good for entrepreneurs because you can kind of work your schedule around what you're going to do. You get partial retirement, you get healthcare for like $90 a month, and like dental for like 11. And then you get a paycheck, you can take on assignments. I did a 6-monther in Qatar a couple of years ago. I have no complaints, man. The reserves has been amazing. It's different for everybody, though.
That's awesome. No, I appreciate you sharing that because I know some veterans wrestle with that. Like, should you stay in the reserves? Should you just cut it clean and roll out? So I don't think there's a right or wrong. I think it's finding something that works best for you. And it sounds like you found something that works for you.
Yeah, it's a whole different animal. And the biggest thing to remember is that you have a lot more flexibility over your career in the sense that when you join a reserve unit, you're dedicated to that unit. You just do your regular, if you're a traditional reservist, and there's a couple of iterations, you do your 1 week in a month and 2 weeks in the summer, and then you can pick and choose assignments as you wish. You can take on volunteer assignments all day long. They're always available. And then in my own case, there's opportunities for cross training. So I'm currently an air battle systems manager called a 1 Charlie 5, but I've been sent to school for Air Force data links. So it's kind of like computer engineering for military systems. It pays about 130, 140 on the outside if I ever wanted to go that route. So there's a lot of additional benefits. You also get a secondary GI Bill, and I use that to finish my doctorate in education. And it's just overall, there's a lot of benefits to it. And you also have a functional CAC reader, so you can shop on any base on Earth. So
it's awesome. So you're actually not just Rob, you're Dr. G. You have your doctorate.
Technically, yeah.
Technically. Well, hopefully, technically, personally, professionally, every way, you've got it, man, which is cool. I'm a firm believer in the concept of knowledge is power. And the more education you have, the more you're empowered and the more you can do with your life personally and or professionally. So especially being a veteran entrepreneur, there's only so much bandwidth and time during the day, and you can only know so much. So how did you come to the decision point that you wanted to take the plunge and be an entrepreneur yourself?
I'll shoot you straight, man, because you and I know each other for a while, and you're a no BS kind of dude. I'm too crazy to work for anybody, and like a lot of entrepreneurs, I have a wild creative streak. I have an almost lethal amount of ADD flowing through my body at any given time. And it was very hard for me to sit in a cubicle and to not get paid what I was worth. And in a lot of cases, work for people that were not the greatest leaders. And so finally, I just realized like, hey, you're a self-starter, you're very creative, you're very motivated. Why not just create your own company, cultivate your skills, build them up, and then get paid what you're worth? Because in entrepreneurship, this is what people forget, there's no income cap. You don't have to crawl into your boss's office every year and beg for a 1% and 2% raise and go over your performance reports and all this dumb BS. In entrepreneurship, literally, I mean, you have to make up everything. So that's also something you have to consider. You have to completely create your schedule. You have to build up your business. You have to, figure out all these facets of it, but you can make as much money as you want to, which is wild. Most people cannot fathom that.
100%. And when you were going down that path, when you were originally thinking of saying, okay, corporate America is nice, it's been fun, I got that t-shirt, I'm ready to go another direction, was where you are today, which you said you did this about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, is where you are today where you originally thought you were going to be when you first considered entrepreneurship? So how was your mindset? What were you thinking your business was going to be when you wanted to start your own? And then how did that base kind of turn into where you are today?
It evolved into the current iteration. And I never set out and said, oh, I'm going to do PR, I'm going to do visibility. It was more like, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to focus on something that I enjoy doing, and I'm going to pick a niche that matches my personality. I like shooting video. I like reaching out to people. I like doing something that has a meaningful and violent effect on people's lives in a good way. And so that's how it eventually, it was crazy because it was like stacking bricks in the foundation. So I just started off originally in the early days just teaching how to get on podcasts. I was like, okay, this is how you get on podcasts, cultivate your story, the pitch, the reach out, blah, blah, blah. And then it expanded a little bit. I started a magazine. I was like, okay, now I have a magazine asset that I can sell advertising for. I can get clients and give them their first interviews in a lot of cases, which becomes a stepping stone to other interviews. And then after the magazine, I taught myself how to do press releases. So now I have this new skill that I learned from like reading books off Amazon. And now I can charge a bunch of money to write press releases and get people global coverage for their businesses. And then I started signing up for writing jobs with like Medium and Newsbreak, and then I can do LinkedIn articles. So now I have 3 ways to write articles about people. All this stuff made me a deadly visibility person in the sense that most PR agencies only focus on either media outreach or press releases. Like they've only got 1 or 2 skill sets. I'm clocking about 7, which is why my model is pretty good.
Awesome. And I appreciate you clarifying and kind of walking us down that path. And it just came from, it sounds like from who you are. Okay, I want to do this, but here's something that can help with that. And here's something. So it's not settling, correct? You have a natural tendency for self-improvement, self-growth, so you can provide a better product, not only for yourself, but for your paying clients. That's what I'm feeling when I hear you speak.
I'm really into self-learning. It's called autodidactic learning, which is when you teach yourself. And Edison, Ford, there are a lot of people throughout history that are autodidactic learners, and that meant they learn by doing. I failed out of high school and I failed out of 2 colleges. And because of my ADD, I almost failed out of my Air Force Tech School. And when I was in my 20s, I realized my learning style was a lot more hands-on. I realized that I learned better if I could draw diagrams and use colors and shapes. And once I isolated that in my late 20s, I started realizing, wait, there are better ways to learn things than just sitting in a classroom. And that works for a lot of people, and that's cool, but I'm not a lot of people. So with using self-learning, I isolated like 16 different speed learning techniques. My last book I wrote was on speed learning.
Okay.
So I taught myself how to self-publish. I taught myself how to make a magazine. I taught myself how to do press releases. Like everything I've done, I've never had school for. I just literally said, that's a skill set I'd like to learn. I have a passion for it, and that's what's going to make it happen. So yeah, self-learning is awesome.
Nah, I think it's amazing. And you and I are similar. I think you're probably more intense than me with it. And when I started my own shop, I built my own career when I was W-2 working in wealth management, financial services, 100% referral based. I built a couple relationships with some phenomenal individuals that had their corporations had corporate relationships with my firm. And primarily they were payroll companies, ADP and Paychecks. They would go out and sell companies payroll, and they had a 401k army that would come and sell 401k. And then they would refer me the 401k. And I just got to know the reps. And that's how my business started. And it wasn't until I went independent, I realized I didn't want what was just given to me. I wanted to go out and start working with certain companies. And then I realized I had zero sales skills. Zero sales skills. And because I just sat there with my hand out for years, and whatever they gave me, like, sure, this is great. I'm a phenomenal salesman. Look at all this stuff I'm doing. I never had to sell anything. It was literally given to me. And then I had a huge moment of humble pie where I professionally and personally, I blew a couple $100,000 that I had saved in real estate, liquidated some real estate in Vegas when I started my shop to have some capital, invested that in marketing. And I learned very slowly, unfortunately, the hard way, that marketing is not sales. And marketing companies are happy to take your money to, oh, we're going to do this, 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 this. And you think it sounds great. Just because your brand's out there and they're sharing information about you doesn't mean you are closing sales and bringing revenue and driving cash flow. So humbly, I was destroyed and I blew a couple $100,000. Big lesson in business and failure, that I did not have sales skills. And then I started immersing myself like you. I'm looking at my bookshelf right here. I've got a ton of sales books and just reading, then getting sales coaches and then trying different ones and hearing different perspectives. And right now, I don't mind sharing. I have a sales coach and I do pay them each month, and they help me with that skill set still, because it's a lifelong process to get good at it. Especially in my world as a financial advisor, throw my professional hat on. Initially, you are taught to talk at people and impress them with your knowledge. So if I wanted you as a client, I would say, Rob, oh, do you know blah, 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 and I just start spewing jargon at you to wow you with how smart I am, to hopefully win you over. Like, wow, this guy's smart. I want him to manage my money, him or her to manage my money. And then I realized that is the worst thing you can do in sales, is just sit there and talk at someone versus having a genuine, curious conversation with someone. So when you just shared about your mindset and what you do, and you found a gap and you realize you have a skill gap and you need to close that skill gap, and you're willing to do it yourself, and you have the mental aptitude and skill set to learn, you know how to learn. You've taught yourself. That's what I think. One thing about college, and you can tell me if you agree, I don't care where the hell you go. The purpose of college is to teach you how to teach yourself to learn. So if you can get that done at community college or an Ivy League school or this or that, once you know how to learn, you can teach yourself anything and have any skill set to do anything you want anywhere in the one at any time. So that's what I think about education. So a bit of a pontification kind of going back and forth, but looking at building a skill set. If you're an entrepreneur, there will be skill sets that you have, skill sets that you're lacking. The sooner you can recognize a skill set that you're lacking, the sooner then you realize you either hire someone that has that skill set to help you if you've got the capital and the cash flow to do it, or you have to learn yourself. Right. So I'm sorry, I'm kind of just taking over a little bit and chatting. This is your podcast, but this is good because you're triggering me and it shows that we're similar in nature. So as we're chatting, what thoughts are going through your mind?
So first of all, thank you for that. That was brilliant. And you just touched on a couple of things that we're going to give some really good lessons today. So the first thing that I would emphasize for entrepreneurs, because they have to ask themselves, is it worth investing time to learn this? And should I bring in an expert? Because that's always the weighted question. Okay. And then the secondary question is education or experience more important? You and I are both veterans, and we both know the old adage of junior officers that come fresh out of college, zero experience, trying to tell a chief what to do, and trying to, something they read in a textbook that they think is going to make the boat run better, for Navy stuff. I find that both are valuable in their own way. It is good to be educated. It is good to have some sort of formal education system so that you know how to write properly, so you know how to compose thought, to critically analyze things, fact check things, verify stuff like that. That's what college is good for. I'm not the brightest dude, even with a PhD. I'm not the brightest dude out there, but I can research like a savage. And that's what I feel the greatest thing a PhD program did for me. And plus, unbelievable amounts of persistence. So when you're going back and you're thinking, okay, let's say there's 20 skills an entrepreneur can learn, but at the end of the day, they only need to know 3 or 4 of them. They need to know the things they can do that are in their zone of genius that, naturally flows. They need to know the things that will save them time, but they also need to know when something is over their head or it's going to take an inordinate amount of time that they can task out. Like you said, hire an expert. For example, I don't need to know coding. I don't need to update my website all the time. I can hire somebody really, really smart for not a lot of money to get the job done very, very quickly, where I don't have to read coding books and practice and all this stuff. Press releases naturally synthesized with me because I write a lot. And all I had to do was learn a little bit of formatting. I got that online. I got about 7 books off Amazon just to get better at it. I read one today. And that was something I like doing. I like doing press releases genuinely because it lets me tell stories. Certain skills should be learned and certain ones should be hired out to experts for sure. And you got to ask yourself, okay, what's the time cost benefit of this? Can I hire someone as a force multiplier for this skill? Can I teach this skill to somebody and just take it off my plate?
With that point, I think one key factor for any entrepreneur, especially a new entrepreneur, is cash flow.
Yeah.
Right. So if you don't have the cash flow to bring in a sales coach and pay them $1,000 a month, but you've got $20 to buy a book on Amazon and read it and reread it, and maybe then email the author and, hey, what about this and what about that? And connect with them on LinkedIn and start following them and then seeing what they post. And so throw cash flow into that decision tree that you just mentioned.
So you're completely right, because there's think of it as a ladder. At the bottom of the ladder is self-learning, DIY, autodidactic. That means YouTube videos. It means Google books. It means freeware, stuff you can access on the internet, whatever, for self-learning. Maybe you have some experts in your network that'll let you pick their brain. And then in the middle of the ladder is done with you, where you can join a group, a mastermind, some type of collaboration, group Zoom call from some expert. And then at the top of that ladder, the more pricier stuff is the plan where somebody's doing some stuff for you, like a custom plan, especially in the sales realm. So you can read some sales books, read some marketing books, get a little more cash flow, and then you join a mastermind. And then you start getting some real ideas from heavy hitters. And then your cash flow should increase if the mastermind's worth its salt. And then at that point, you do what you did, hire an expert that's obviously probably got case results and studies and can show that they're worth the money. And then you should be optimizing your cash flow if you're at the top of that ladder.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it depends where you are, and the visual I like to use is the U, or more like a J. It's actually a J. So you start on the end of the J, and that's the level line, that zero line, that's break even. And when you're an entrepreneur, hopefully you've got some savings, and that's why I sold some real estate to have cash flow. And then you actually drop down because you're spending more than is coming in as you start your business. And then if you're implementing and having some success execution, you're going to have failures. Eventually you hit bottom, and then you start getting ROI on your efforts. And then hopefully your marketing leads to trust and likability, and it helps you start building relationships. Because once depending what you're selling, but if you're professional services, you're really selling yourself, because whatever we do is commoditized, and the only difference is you. So how do you differentiate yourself, and how do you build trust? How do you earn someone's respect? Because at the end of the day, in my world, in our world as a financial advisor, and we're dealing with, you have $1 million. Let's say you got $1 million. Like, why would you ever trust someone like me to manage it for you? So you have to have that feeling of trust and likability. And I throw a respect in there, especially being a veteran. That's a huge thing for me because I'm incredibly loyal. So I kind of look for that. And as I build, I was having a conversation. Sorry, epiphany kind of shot in my mind. I was chatting with one of the veterans in our group, the Veteran Entrepreneur Masterclass, which I want you to come to. I know you're busy, but I still want you to come to it one day. Sure. And he and I were chatting, and I was talking about my business and my clients. And I love my clients. My clients are effing awesome. They're just good people. One or two get my nerves once in a while, but most are phenomenal, good people. And that's just any relationship. And my one buddy, I was chatting with him, very successful attorney, and just made partner in his firm, which is great. And he's like, I don't like my clients. They pay his bills, but he's like, I want to bring in my clients, not ones that the firm kind of had him manage and build relationships, but he wants to go get clients like him. And yeah, dude, that's huge. Like, let's do that shit together. And so we have a similar target market. So having clients that fit with you, not just paying the bills is one part. Ultimately, yes, you need cash flow, and sometimes you'll take something. My analogy I like to use, and I'm going to ask you your thoughts on this. When you're first starting out, you got to get something in, some cash flow. And my analogy I use goldfish, I use salmon, and then there's whales. So get some little goldfish in just to tide you over to go out fishing, right? And you go out fishing, throw some salmon in the boat, catch some salmon, a little bit bigger, a little more meat to them. They'll tide you over longer. So when you go out whale hunting or whale fishing, is it hunting? Is it whale hunting? You go hunting for whales. You've got the salmon to sustain you. So it's kind of a different tiers. Once you get that certain level of sustainability, which in that J, which is coming out of the break-even point, you're coming up, you can eat a little bit better, and you can have a little bit of a lifestyle. You can maybe get rid of that 10-year-old car and get a new car, or go from the 1-bedroom rented apartment to buying a condo, a 2-bedroom condo somewhere. So what are your kind of thoughts on that, just as you're building your brand, your experience level, and your cash flow slowly comes up? My analogy I use, again, goldfish to salmon that sustain you as you go get whales. What are your thoughts on that?
There are two things that get you. First of all, that's a brilliant analogy. You really got me thinking on some stuff today.
That's why we're here, dude.
So there are two things that'll get you to climb that ladder fast. The first one is, how strong is your brand? How strong is your brand perception? How good are your graphics? How good is your presentation to the world? And the second thing is results. So when you've got those goldfish, what you're really doing, or what you really should be doing, this is the foot stomp for the audience paying attention to this, is you should be working on providing the best results you possibly can at those lower levels. And I'm going to tell you, Brett, in 2023, I did something kind of wacky. I took on about 4 new clients, not for a lot of money either. These were smaller clients that were like early stage business, mid stage business, whatever, that all trusted me. And I worked from probably 3 a.m. to 6 p.m. for about 4 or 5 days a week on just them for results. And I've gotten the best results I've ever gotten for clients on that schedule, but I also got better. What I was doing is getting OJT. I was getting out in the battlefield and just learning and getting new skills and understanding, like, hey, how do I get better at what I'm doing? Because at the end of the day, when you can provide results for what you're doing, you will stand out. When you're consistent and you're throwing out these great testimonials and these client success stories, you can charge more than your competition. You don't have to negotiate with people anymore. And for that lawyer that has these terrible clients he's not thrilled with, the answer is to widen the net. Because when you become famous and you start getting more interviews and you start being able to put up hot fire social media graphics and you start being able to celebrate your results with quantifiable figures, and in your case, it would be like, oh, I helped this client to get this amount in this amount of time, or I helped this client get out of this tax issue, or I helped them to sell their business, or whatever. And you tell these stories, you create FOMO in other people, and you create this incredible brand perception where people look and say, oh, I need to get with Brett. He's on top of it. He's celebrating his clients. This is a guy that knows what he's doing. Because at the end of the day, in the PR world and the marketing world, there's a lot of people out there that can brag all day long about the results, but they can't show anything on paper. I wish I'd have known you before you'd have met these marketing people, because I would have taken 1/10 of what you spent. I would have gotten you on TV. I would have written you a bunch of articles. I would have like created a crazy social media campaign, all this different stuff. And the complete atmosphere would have been different for you versus flushing money for some marketer that you probably want to kidnap right now.
It's all good, but I survived and you learn, right? It's a learning process, and I can now share that story, right? It is, and I'm probably still carrying that loss forward. So it is what it is, dude. You learn. and that makes me better. And I love to, I don't love it, but I have that lesson. There's a fortunate lesson, but I have the lesson. I can share that lesson though. So for me, more than anything, I've always loved the teaching aspect. If you can't, hence I'm on a podcast. This is what the podcast is teaching. And I'm a bit of a ham, right? And so for me, it's personally rewarding. It makes me feel good when I can help someone. And so if I can take my lessons and share them with someone so they get to A to B faster, for me, selfishly, that makes me feel good. We had a conference. Actually, when I tried to have lunch with you, so I saw your post like, hey, we're out here. You and some other veteran. You said, come meet us. And you were the only one that showed up. Well, I'll share. Like, I tried to reach out to you. I tried to see you in San Diego. You were too busy for me, but I tried to make time for you when I was down there. You gave me like
an hour window.
At least I gave you an hour. I made time. That was a packed schedule, dude. Like, we were on the Midway. Like, we did a live stream on the Midway. We had all the stuff. As a packed conference, I still made time to see you. So, hey, I tried to see you.
I appreciate you reaching out.
I tried to see you.
It's just tough sometimes with scheduling.
So it's just what this is. So when we were in San Diego, which made me think of you, there was a generationologist, I guess is what his title is. And he goes with the different generations. And so how old are you, if you mind me asking?
47.
Okay, we're the same age. I'm 47 too. So I think your email 76 in it, and that makes sense. So I'm 47 as well. And one of the main things this generationologist shared is that the millennials are still in the quote conquer phase. So when you're in your 20s and 30s, you're trying to go out and conquer everything and you're making mistakes and you're learning. And then there's a slight shift. And it happens to many of us in our early to mid 40s, where you're no longer just trying to conquer the world, but you've had some success and you've had many failures when you were out conquering. And now you have wisdom and you can share that wisdom with the younger ones that don't have that experience yet or wisdom and that haven't learned the lessons you have the hard way. And so that's where you and I are now in a position. And I failed dramatically the last 5 years. I could tell you some sob stories that would make your eyes water, but you just don't stop. You keep going, you keep driving, you've got grit, and failure is not an option. Right. And so you learn from those failures. Even though people are trying to hold you down, kick you, punch you while you're down there, you just smile and you keep getting up and you keep driving on. And, ABP, Alpha, Bravo, Papa, always be positive. You never change your mindset, and you can never turn negative or dark. You just got to keep going.
The two things that come to mind when you talk about business wisdom that I've learned, the first one is fire your shit clients. And I wish everybody would follow this and realize it is a big blue ocean. There's plenty of people out there with money. I've fired 2 clients and it felt amazing. The amount of pressure lifted off my shoulders was almost infinite, and it was almost overnight. And one time I had to write a check for like $2,200 to make them go away. And I was so happy to do it because it was a $550 million company. And all it was me dealing with somebody who was telling me it was a project to make them a magazine for their business. And they put some guy who'd been a waiter 3 months before in charge of me, who's like 27 with no experience in the magazine industry. I have 6 years. I've won a business award. I know some stuff. He wanted like 40 hours of unpaid work. He wanted all these changes made. He was a terrible communicator. He was a real asshole. And finally, after about a month and a half of his demands, including him going back and altering the proposal that I'd sent to the CEO, I finally told him, I'm writing a check for the unpaid balance. I'm walking out of this. If you contact me again, you're going to hear from my attorney. And I never heard from them again. That check hurt, Brett. It hurt me. And I was so happy afterwards. So that was one case. And in another case, I'd worked with this guy. Oh my God. He didn't do a single thing I'd ever asked him to do. He would just disappear for weeks at a time. He'd call me from unlisted numbers. And then he would like just complain like, hey, what are you doing? I haven't gotten the results I wanted, blah, blah, blah. Anytime I would send him any type of direction or guidance, he would just ignore it. And he wondered why he never got any results. And I can say this. I just looked him up recently, and he'd been arrested a second time for a crime in his city. and there was drug paraphernalia also found. And it was a nice picture of him in his orange jumpsuit. So I guess he did get the coverage that he deserved.
Wow. Wow. So karma's a bitch, right? Karma's a bitch.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, so you get to a point, yes, you got those goldfish, and maybe you don't want to eat those goldfish, but those goldfish sustain you, and you eat your humble pie, and you get to a certain point where just like, we have a minimum fee, and it's here. And I'm sorry, if you want to work with me, this is where we are now.
Say that again and explain it for the audience. Minimum fee.
Yeah. So if someone wants to work with you, you have a minimum number, and you set that, and you hard
it's a filter is what it is. It is a price point. And I'm sorry to interrupt you, but this is really important. You cannot buy a Maserati with coupons. And even in the early days, you have to set a high brand standard, and you have to understand anytime you start discounting your stuff to make a sale, anytime you start negotiating with somebody, forget it. It's a race to the bottom, and you're going to attract the worst shit clients. And what you said was so freaking smart. A minimum price just to get in the door. And if they don't like it, once in a while, if somebody is my dream client and I know I can do something with them, I will offer a payment plan once in a while, not every time.
Yeah, with that, what I've learned, because my price point if I throw my professional hat for a second, not a plug, but just this is reality in business. So my technician hat, where I am an expert and I will go up against anyone in the country, is as a 401k consultant. And so looking at a company's retirement plan to make sure the investments are top notch and the employees have good education, like that's where I thrive. And I do that stuff literally in my sleep, and I love doing it. And so my fee is quite high compared to a lot of my competition. And I'll even share, it was amazing going to the conference. We were in San Diego at the NAPA, National Association of Plan Advisors annual conference. It's all 401k advisors. So it was pretty much myself and 3,000 of my competitors. My top competitors go to this each year. And we just sit around the table and listen and learn and hear what people are saying and this and that. And people, oh, well, your fee, you got this and that. You got to benchmark and see what you're offering. Like if you're talking about benchmark and you're making your fee compared to everyone else's, what you're saying is you are everyone else. You're saying you are just a commodity. And I was sitting there like, and I was hearing what they were saying, what they were charging. I'm like, I charge quite a bit more than you, but I know I'm adding massive value that they're not. I'm not going to say what it is here on this platform, but if you're in a commoditized industry, the difference is you, and you must be able to articulate why you are different and how you add more value than everyone else around you. If you cannot do that, you are in the sea of sameness. So what's triggering your mind as I make that statement?
This is why I got into visibility. You're in a room with thousands of people, do pretty comparable to what you do. So how do you stand out, and how do you justify charging more? And so when I work with somebody, not to plug myself, but when I work with somebody, I take them from expert, which is everybody you're in the room with, right, to highly visible industry leader. And that, when you get on the fringes of business celebrity, that is where you can justify higher pricing. And there's two places where we can create the value that justify those higher costs. The customer experience. Are you reachable? Are you fast? Are you efficient? That's in the middle. And then at the end, the final result. Did your investments go well? Did you pick good companies? Did you provide timely communication every week and good communication with your clients? Can they reach you in a reasonable time frame? So creating an optimal customer experience is very important. What's the Brett experience? And then what's the Brett result? And everybody should ask themselves that. So what's the Rob experience? Well, guess what? You're working with a friend. Someone that doesn't throw jargon at you. He doesn't BS you and tell you, hey, you're going to be on Fox tomorrow if you can't do it. What's the end result? Well, I can rack and stack and show every single, result I've gotten for clients in 2023. It's pretty crazy by this point. If you're going to be better than other people, you need to have a unique value proposition that makes you stand out. You need to be visible. You need to have interviews. You need to be creating content that is both advisory in nature and informative. And you also need to understand how to create content that is understandable by your audience. You are the leader, and I always say teach your industry. When I'm working with a client or a professional, I'm like, what's a cool lesson you could put online that you could write a LinkedIn article about, that you can make a LinkedIn carousel, that you can do social media posts on, just digestible stuff. And then once a month, do what I call a demonstration of power, where you either take a person and make an example of them in a good way, or you teach a crazy lesson that only insiders in your industry know about. Demonstrations of power are very, very effective if you can capture them right visually and get a result out of it. So like once in a while, I'll pick somebody out of Vetpreneur Tribe, the Facebook group that you and I are in, 16,000 vets, and they might not even know me. And I'll pitch them to every news station in their area. I'll do a complete breakdown of, hey, this is how I find all the media stations in your area. Oh yeah, I wrote you out 5 pitches today. You might be on the news, blah, 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 but this is how I did it step by step. And that's the demonstration of power of the experience of working with you. And everybody watching this interview, they can create their own demonstration of power, showing the experience of working with you. So that's how.
No, I think that's huge. And then, so I'll let you plug yourself for a little bit here, as we're coming up on the 45-minute mark already. What is a Veteran Tribe, and what does that do for you, and how has created that helped you in your business?
So Vetpreneur Tribe is owned by U.S. Marine and combat vet Marshall Terran, and it's a 16,000 member Facebook group that's got a bunch of support resources to help veterans, whether they're transitioning, whether they're getting into business, or whether they have existing businesses, to get better. There's a kind of inner circle called the Warrior Council that's very affordable, $50 a month. I pay, and I'm a member, and every week I learn stuff from experts. It's a good way. It's like a formal mastermind that Marshall runs. Vetpreneur Tribe, I've been in it since it had 20 members. So I've been a member for a long time, and now I'm the official social media coordinator. So I create all the content for it, and I host discussions and interviews and stuff. But it's definitely been, it's not my company, but it's brought a ton of value into what I'm doing. And I've met a lot of great people through it and great experts. As far as my own company, Shift Advanced Life Design, that's my magazine, that in itself was a great experience because I got to interview top performers. I've interviewed Delta Force, SEAL Team 6, Mike Michalowicz. I've interviewed Sean Kanan from Cobra Kai. All these different amazing people in business that are incredible performers. And I asked myself when I started it, and I said, what if Tim Ferriss made a magazine? Like, what would it really look like? And it's not a veteran magazine. It's a vet-friendly magazine. The staff is all Air Force veterans, but it focuses more on people that really, really achieved at a high level, and then reverse engineering how. What's their mindset? What's their pattern in the day? What's their itinerary? What makes a guy like, you see this here, Dale Comstock, who's in Delta Force, was a mercenary for a couple of years, who's on reality TV. He's a professional bodybuilder and martial artist. What makes a guy like him able to be his own boss, have multiple properties in multiple countries, and live the life of his dreams? What is he doing differently that all of us, aren't doing? And that's why I love interviewing guys like him, or Scott Oldford, who was $1 million in debt by like 24 and got out of it. And now he's like one of the most famous business advisors there are, or Steve Sims. At the end of the day, Brett, it's about finding these people and just saying, okay, what is your daily ritual like? Like, what are you doing to create the optimal results? And how can we emulate even a sliver of that talent to grow? And that's why I love Shift. That's why I named it Shift Advanced Life Design, because we can design our own lives. We can make our lives better by small steps, by looking at these people that are high achievers. And that's why I love having the magazine, so I can get that message out there.
No, man, you and I are on the same path. So we kind of stumbled on it different ways. I thought Vetpreneur Tribe, was yours, because I don't know anyone else. I guess you said a Marine founded it, which is cool. It's pretty fun. So I post in there. I post links, and I'm going to post your own episode in there when it goes live too. So we're going to snippets. You see me post there all the time. And we have the Veteran Entrepreneur Masterclass podcast, which is what this is, but we also have the group. And so I did a screenshot from our last Zoom group, and about 20 or so veterans there. And I said, hey, if you guys are serious about business, want to talk, let me know. And one guy's like, oh, Warrior Council, or I think it's Warrior Council. Is that what you guys call it? This and that. I'm like, no, it could be called that, but it's just a group. And he's like, oh, and there was a little bit of, hey, that's not us, and you're not this. And I'm like, I'm not trying to sell. Ours doesn't cost anything. I'm just letting people know I have it.
Yeah.
So I'm still learning the lay of the land of the group, and I try and see what's there. The one thing I'll share for all the veteran entrepreneurs out there in all the different Facebook groups. I try and follow about 6 or 7 different veteran entrepreneur Facebook groups as well as LinkedIn, is that stop pitching each other. So many people just come in, hey, I do this, and they just pitch each other, and they think the room is all just potential customers, and they're just going to buy because you're a veteran. And one guy today, I think I saw a post. He's like, hey, help me meet my goal. I got to do 15X. And I'm like, hey, dude, just be transparent with you. No one gives a shit about you and your goals.
So there's a great analogy here. When I was a younger guy, I used to, if I liked a girl, I would give her my number and tell her to call me. Guess how many of them did? So if you show desperation and you show you're only out for yourself and you're not putting in any work or any value for anybody else, your sales are going to suck. And I wish more veterans would understand this. I'm a big fan. I'm going to go off on a very fast tangent. I'm a big fan of attraction marketing. And it means teaching my industry. It means showing the customer experience. It means I start talking shit like Ric Flair because I get out there and I say, this is what it's like working with Rob. These are my clients. These are screenshots of their results. Oh, hey, another client on TV. Here we go. Doug Barry looks pretty good on, Good Morning South Carolina. And so attraction marketing is very, very real. I don't use ads. I don't cold pitch. I don't talk to strangers unless it's just to greet them. I've never had to do any type of outbound stuff. I only do attraction marketing. It's all inbound, and it brings in a lot of strangers because I'm really clear in my messaging. And this is where that veteran, whoever it is, needs to start rethinking his sales process, teach his industry, make some videos, like you said, get familiar, create that trust, right? If you see my stupid face 6 times in a day, obviously you're going to subconsciously start thinking, wow, maybe this guy actually knows what he's talking about.
Well, a lot of it's dating advice, and let's say you're failing miserably there. So I just bust your chops, dude. Bust your chops. No, this is good. This has been good. And so I think a lot of veteran entrepreneurs could pick up a lot of knowledge from you. And so are you taking on new clients right now, or talk about your own business? What do you see the future of your business next 12 months and 36 months?
Yeah. So what I'm doing, I'm booking out clients about a month and a half in advance, because what I'm realizing is that there's a lot more importance to strategy. And one thing I've really kicked ass at in 2023, industry magazines. Okay. So I create a database. I look up a client's industry. I create a database of all the specialized reporters out there, all the blogs, all the industry magazines, and I send out pitches from my staff. And we've gotten people placed in all kinds of magazines, and it's really helped boost their business. In Ted Fox's case, oh my God, he got in 2 magazines plus my own magazine. He's got 4 magazines pending, a TV interview pending. He's negotiating a deal with General Motors to make parts for them. He got a spot in the Texas State Fair, and he got a $60,000 order just from the stuff that I've been doing. And awesome. So my results have been insane. But I'm getting to the point now where, like you said, I need to have minimum pricing, in the sense that I need to work with bigger companies, because I realized something very important, Brett. I'm doing all the work that the big PR agencies are doing, and I'm getting equal or better results, except I'm not charging $12,000 a month like they are. It's time to up level. It's time to upgrade. It's time to present myself a little bit more professionally. Once again, brand perception, and then upgrade my graphics. But the point is, it's time to just work. I've done my goldfish. It's time to just work with really big salmon or really small whales. That's where I'm at right now. And I appreciate the fact that you said that about minimum pricing. That's such a reminder, dude.
No, it's so true. And so where I've gone, I've got my base fee is here. When the company's a certain size, my base fee is up here. But a lot of smaller companies will be referred to me. And I know they could be there. They're just not there today. So I will still humbly, if I see the growth potential and they're good human beings,
yeah,
I discount my standard fee 66% just to allow them in, as long as they've got growth potential. I do that. And my starting level is still higher than most full level, put it that way. But what I have done with veterans, because it's my altruistic mission too, to give back in the podcasting. In the podcast, as this podcast grows, we have more membership and we get sponsorship. The goal is to continue to support my altruistic mission which is helping stem the tide of veteran suicide. So as the podcast grows, we get more branding, we get more recognition, we get sponsorship. There's obviously my financial obligation. Anyone in business, this is a cost, right? So I just want to break even financially, but anything beyond my time, I'm willing to always invest my time. And that's something that sacrifices the rest of my business, but they're not mutually exclusive. They're intertwined. So once we're at a certain point, this podcast and the YouTube channel, all additional revenue that generates is going to support the Battle Buddy Foundation, which is helping veterans with PTSD not effing shoot themselves. That's the altruistic mission here. And then so for myself, I'll just throw it out there because I never plug myself my own podcast. And everyone's like, you need to add a commercial and you need to start sponsoring your own podcast so people know what the hell you do besides just like have phenomenal interviews. But for any veteran entrepreneur or veteran executive, you want to work with us. It was like, oh, we can't afford you. Dude, I just say, pay us whatever you feels fair.
Yeah.
I have a no asshole rule. You can't be an asshole, but pay us whatever you feels fair. If you're a good dude, that still makes me feel good. Right. So for veterans that are out there that are wondering if they can afford a true financial advisor with 20 years experience that's working with very large companies, you want to work with me personally, the potential's there. And if you're a good human being, all right, just know our normal fee is one thing, but just pay us whatever you feel is fair. I'm not gonna work for free. Don't say zero. That would be put you in the A rule. We don't want you in that room. Stay out of the room. But that's kind of what I do to give back to help veterans. So besides a podcast, besides the group, besides the YouTube channel, for veterans who engage us for wealth management and or business consulting, we just say, hey, dude, just be cool and pay us whatever feels fair. And I'd rather that person have a phenomenal experience and they tell 3 or 4 of their friends about us. That's how I love to grow. So yes, if I'm doing I have my master technician hat on and I'm rocking and rolling, I'm providing massive value because I do it all day long and it's easy for me. I'm up here. But if you're cool and you're easygoing, the teacher helper in me, come on board, dude. I'll bring you along. Just be cool and just pay us whatever you feel is fair. So that's what I've kind of done. I know as you're trying to figure out where to go with your own growth as you're building your success, what your model should be. I was kind of sharing some mentorship with you. That's what I've done. So I've got like, hey, when we're rock and rolling, I'm up here. If you're not quite there yet, but you will be there, I'm here. So we'll grow together, right? Because at the end of the day, commas and zeros, whether a company's 401k, I mean, literally the investment, whether there's got 1,000 or 100,000 or $100 million in one fund, it's commas and zeros. I do the same work. So that's why we go to a certain point, we have a flat fee too. So I love to find companies with advisors charging more and more and more as the plan grows. Are they doing more work? No. Well, they told us they're taking on more fiduciary liability. I'm like, they're selling you and they're ripping you off and they're gouging you. There's no need for that. So I can go on a whole nother. I should do that, Giselle. You need to make a tangible what the hell you do and how you help and just get that out there. So maybe we'll do a live stream someday with my technical hat on and to have companies stop getting ripped off by 401k advisors who aren't passionate about them or their business. So I could do that too. But so you're triggering me. So this is a good episode. I think, yeah. And we've talked about doing some stuff together. I'll just say it for me in the podcast. I'm going to reach out to you. I'm going to gauge you for some help, a couple of things I'm doing. I think you're an awesome dude. Like this wasn't planned. We didn't know each other. There's no script today. And I love it. So why don't you bring it on home? If someone's to find you and work with you, Rob, how do they find you?
Yeah, the fastest way is probably on Facebook. Just throw me a message. You can look up Rob the Warrior Strategist for my business page. I don't have a centralized website, or you can reach out to me at editor@shiftlifedesign.com. If you want to read the magazine for free, it is shiftlifedesign.com. There's lots of great interviews in there, lots of information.
Shiftlifedesign.com. Shiftlifedesign.com. And is there like contact me there? They can reach you just by going there?
Yeah. There's direct contact, but just, you can Google me. I'm like 4 pages of Google. I've been interviewed a lot. So there's a bunch of ways to reach me, but I offer free 15-minute consults. And I'm not going to try and sell you anything. If you reach out to me, it's just more to, figure out what you need. And if I have some free resources, I'll offer those too. Same way as you, man. I realize that I have a lot of power, both paid and unpaid, and a lot of resources. And I can, when I get on a call with somebody, I look at their need and pain point versus my zone of genius. And then if it meshes, negotiate price. That's how I do sales calls. And it's worked.
Yeah, I think it's smart, man. So anyone wants to reach out again, do you have a phone number you throw out there ever, or just an email is the best way to reach you, or through the Shift magazine?
Finding me on Facebook. Best
Find you on Facebook.
Yeah,
Okay, so say
Robert Garcia or Rob the Warrior Strategist.
Rob the Warrior Strategist on Facebook. So this has been a phenomenal episode. What I think would be great, another 6 months, have you back, kind of see where you are, see where I am, and just kind of take a version 2 of this. How does that sound?
Yeah, that sounds awesome, dude. Thank you.
Awesome, man. And then does anything else still in the top of your mind before we shut it down? Any kind of parting advice for any veteran entrepreneurs that you think you would like to share?
I just want to say, don't try and do everything at the beginning, in the sense that invest in both the external skills and the internal. You and I talked about the external, which is like, writing copy and website stuff and whatever skills, but internal mindset, also important. Learning how to get rid of a poverty mindset, learning how to be more mentally tough, things like that. Get a personal development coach, get somebody that can really help you with the soft skills as well, the internals.
I think that's great feedback, and I've got them right. They're in our group, right? Which are probably in your group too. So all my group, I've told them to go in the Vetpreneur tribe. And so when I post and tag people, I want to tag my group in your group too. So we've got coaches, we've got everything. So if you're a veteran entrepreneur and you want to be supported and you're open to also supporting, you reach out to myself as well. I'm Brett at SWE90.com. That's Brett, short for Strategic Wealth Endeavor 90.com. And if you're a veteran entrepreneur, you're a good human being, you want to support and you want to help be supported in your business, reach out to. This has been a phenomenal episode, Rob. I love it. Let's get together in 6 months. How's that sound?
Thanks, Brett. It sounds great.
All right, brother. Love you. Out.
See you.